Hi, I want to talk to you a little bit today about managing your time and space as a writer. I thought that on the discussion board you generate a lot of good ideas, and people were generally honest, I think, about what their needs were and what some of the limitations are. And I think that's probably one of the hardest parts about starting a project this big, and that's being able to be really honest about what you need and what it is that you can do with the time and space that you have carved out. I know a lot of times for myself, when I'm doing writing, I try to get away with things. And what I mean by that is, well, I know this isn't an optimal time or an optimal space, but I'll try to squeeze it in, even though I know that for me personally, I need large chunks of time to write effectively, to let that creative process really sink in and hold all the different research that I've pulled together in one place and try to make meaning out of it. Now, some people are better at writing in small chunks. And you're going to have to try to think really hard about what it is your writing style dictates will be the best time and space for you. So give that some consideration. Reflect on what's optimal for you and how much time you think you need to really get rolling. Writing sometimes is like sleep. Some people can take quick naps. Some people don't feel refreshed unless they get a full 8 hours in a row. So think about what's best for you. And then when you're considering your space and your time, it's really important, this plan that you're developing, that you started to develop in your discussion board by actually having to put it down in writing. You have to communicate that to as many people as possible. So if there's a space that's sacred, that's there for your writing for a certain time of the day, you have to let as many people know as possible, either where you work or in your home, that this place is sacred, that for the next 2 hours they're going to have to figure things out for themselves, that they shouldn't come knocking on the door unless it's an emergency. Otherwise, people will eventually start to intrude on that space a little bit more and a little bit more, and before you know it, your space has disappeared. The same thing has to do with the other things in your life that support you being a good writer and researcher. And that's why I asked the question about what is it that you're giving up to take on this project. There's only so much time in a day, and we always make sacrifices. And I think it's pretty common that people make sacrifices in their personal health before they'll make sacrifices in their work or before they'll make sacrifices in their commitments to other people. But I just want to offer that I think that you have to look at that with fresh eyes and see if those commitments you have to other people can be taken on by others or by themselves. Not completely, but in small parts. And if you can be really honest about needing that up front, I think you'll have a lot more success. I want to emphasize this point. I know that this seems to be transcending from the academic to the personal, but they're completely intertwined. Your ability to handle a difficult undertaking like completing a doctorate or a specialist program and working on the dissertation, all those types of things are going to create stress in your life. And to do that well, you have to moderate that stress. And so some of the things that you can do are to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. So you may have to be a little bit more disciplined about turning off that TV at night, or not lingering when getting at your kid's bedtime. Different types of things. Maybe not working so late. Maybe putting some strict hours on how late you're willing to work during certain days of the week, and relying on other people, other staff members, to pick up the load and run with it a little bit more. Those things are okay. Only you can decide how to best organize and choose where other people can pick up the ball. I can't help you with that. You know your world a lot better than I do, but still, you have to find other ways, other places in your life where you can make sacrifices besides your sleep, your eating habits, and your exercise. Because eventually those will start to catch up to you. This kind of enterprise, writing a major piece, finishing advanced graduate work, not everybody completes it. And there are a lot of reasons why people don't complete it. There's no one mistake that people make. And yet, we know that stress can create a cascading effect that makes a lot of other things more difficult. And so I'm a big believer that being honest about that up front, about how to moderate your stress, and making sure that you're taking care of yourself in the process is really helpful. The only way you're going to do that effectively is if you have a plan. And that's what this exercise was about. It's about creating your plan for how you're going to do all those things, how you're going to manage your time, how you're going to manage your physical space, and then how you're going to communicate that to people. So I encourage you to take the ball and run with it now. Don't just let this discussion board exercise drop. Look back at the plan you created. Look at some of the ideas you got from your classmates. Feel free to ask me questions about how I do my writing and organizing, and I'd be happy to share some of those ideas with you. And then communicate that plan to other people and write it down and keep it somewhere. One of the things I encourage people to do when they're first starting out is to develop that plan and to post it somewhere. So they have a constant reminder of what their priorities are and what it is they're trying to accomplish. And then from that, you can develop smaller plans that help dictate what it is you're trying to do that week, that day, maybe even just within that hour. And then being able to accomplish that goal and cross that off the list, know that you've done that successfully, can go a long way towards relieving your stress around the project, because you know you've done what you're supposed to do on that project for that moment. So those are my words of advice and my reflections on the discussion post. As we look forward, we're going to be coming together in an Illuminate session later this week. I put some data up on the main website having to do with highway fatality rates and importing fresh lemons from Mexico. I'd like you to just review that. We're going to talk about that a little bit in the Illuminate session. And we're also going to look forward to how you're going to now take the research that you've compiling and start to write. So hopefully you've already been doing some sketching out. If you haven't, I would assume that going into this week you've already gathered, have a good sense of what the important research, articles and books are related to your topic. And I fully expect by the end of the week that you'll have, there'll be more trickling in, but you'll have the majority of those articles. At least you've touched them, and you have a sense of which ones are most important that you know you're going to have to be writing about in your lit review. And if you haven't finished that part, if you don't have at least a dozen to 2 dozen of those sort of collected, and you know what those are, by the time we hit that Illuminate session, then you're starting to fall behind. So you got to really crank it up this week and make sure you get that done. And then the Illuminate session, we'll talk a little bit how you're going to be writing moving forward. There are a couple of writing assignments in this class called article critiques or briefs. And you're going to be working on those around 2 of those important articles that you've selected. And that writing you do for those briefs is going to fold right into your lit review. So the briefs aren't separate from the lit review. They're helping you write the lit review. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the Illuminate session coming up. As always, if you have questions, feel free to post them on the discussion board or send me an email. Good luck with your collecting research this week and managing your time and space. Look forward to seeing you online.